Welcome to Bloodline Revenge. The story you're about to hear takes place in Chicago, Illinois. My suitcase did not end up in the hallway by accident. My brother dragged it out, bumped it against the door frame, and let it thud onto the hardwood like I was moving out and just had not gotten the memo yet. Then he leaned in the doorway of my room, looked me up and down, and said it so casually it almost sounded rehearsed. "You are a burden. Nobody wants you here anyway." His wife stood a step behind him, arms crossed, surveying my walls and my bed like she was already decorating in her head. This was the room I had stayed in as a kid. The room I moved back into 9 months ago, when Mom almost died in that car accident. The room where I squeezed work calls between pain meds and physical therapy alarms. To them, it was just square footage. I am Rachel, 29 years old, and for nearly a year, I have been the one who wakes up when Mom cries out at 2 in the morning. The one who keeps track of her appointments, the one who cooks whatever she can swallow on bad days. I work from my laptop at the little desk by the window, pay my own bills, and still somehow ended up stamped with the word burden, like a return package. My brother nudged my suitcase with his foot, pushing it closer to the stairs. "You can figure something out," he said. "We actually need this space." A few years ago, I would have apologized just to keep the peace. I would have squeezed into the guest room, smiled through the insult, told myself family comes first, and my feelings could wait. But standing there in the doorway of the room he had just taken from me, something shifted. That was the moment I stopped being convenient, stopped being quiet, stopped being polite. I grabbed the handle of my suitcase and rolled it past him without a word. But I was not running away. If you have ever been treated like an extra piece of luggage in your own family, stay with me, because walking out of that room was the first move in a story that would tear apart the perfect little life they thought they had built. Looking back, that moment in the hallway did not come out of nowhere. It was just the first time my brother stopped pretending. For weeks before that, Tyler and his wife Lauren had been turning up at my parents' house more and more, always with some excuse that sounded sweet on the surface. They would show up with takeout from my mom's favorite diner, iced coffee for me, or a bag of groceries they claimed they grabbed on sale. At first, I felt grateful. It was nice not to be the only one worrying about dinner or watching the clock for medication times. But while Mom ate slowly at the table and Dad talked about work, I started noticing where Tyler's eyes really went. He would pick up the stack of mail on the counter and thumb through it, pausing a little too long at envelopes from the bank and the insurance company. Lauren would wander down the hallway and peek into the bathroom cabinet, making these throwaway comments like, "Wow, these prescriptions must cost a fortune now." Or, "Good thing you guys have good coverage, right?" When we were alone in the kitchen, Lauren leaned against the counter one afternoon, watching me rinse dishes. "Must be nice," she said, "living here rent-free. You must be saving so much money while everyone else is out there struggling." I told her I paid my own bills, that most of my paycheck went to student loans and Mom's extra therapies that insurance did not fully cover. She just smiled that tight influencer smile. "Sure, but still having a safety net like this. Some people would kill for that, you know." Tyler joined in with his own little jabs when Dad was out of earshot. "You are almost 30, Raw," he said more than once. "At some point, you have to stand on your own 2 feet. I wanted to scream that I had been standing, running, doing everything for this family while he was posting pictures from rooftop bars, but I bit my tongue because Mom was in the next room, and the last thing she needed was hearing her kids fight. The day it all boiled over started out normal enough. I had Mom in the living room, helping her through her physical therapy exercises, counting under my breath as she tried to lift her leg onto the step. Her face was tight with pain, sweat beading at her hairline, and I kept my voice soft like the therapist taught me. "You are doing great, Mom. Just a few more. We can stop anytime you need." The front door opened and Tyler's voice rolled in loud and cheerful. "We brought lunch." Lauren followed behind him, balancing paper bags that smelled like fries and burgers, talking about some crazy traffic on the interstate. They barely looked at Mom struggling on the phone block. As soon as she finished a set and sank back into the couch cushions, Tyler dropped the bags on the coffee table and said, "We need to talk." His tone was different, flat, like a meeting at work. He sat across from us. Lauren perched on the arm of the chair next to him, and they started explaining how their condo in the city was just not working anymore. Parking was a nightmare. The neighbors were loud, and with everything going on with Mom, it just made sense to move back here for a while to help out. It sounded generous until you listened closely. Tyler kept saying things like, "With our schedules we can manage her care better, and we can take a lot off your plate. Raw, if you let us." Then Lauren glanced down the hall toward my room. "Especially if we use the space that actually makes sense," she added. "Being close to Karen's room would make it easier to check on her at night." Mom looked confused. "But that is Rachel's room," she said, like she genuinely could not imagine one of us taking it. Tyler shrugged. "Yeah, for now. But Ra works from a laptop. She can set up in the smaller room or even get a place nearby once she gets on her feet. It is not like she plans on living here forever, right?" He shot me a look that dared me to contradict him. I felt my throat burn. I told them I was managing fine, that Mom's routine worked, that moving everyone around would just create more stress. That is when his mask slipped. "You are a burden, Rachel," he said. Quieter this time, but sharper, like a knife laid on the table. "You are not the hero here. You are just in the way." Lauren nodded, eyes flat. "Nobody really wants you stuck here," she said. "They just do not know how to say it." They talked over me after that, discussing my room like I had already agreed, like I was a piece of furniture to be reassigned. Mom stared down at her hands, and I could see tears pooling at the corners of her eyes. Not sure who to defend without breaking. I swallowed everything I wanted to yell and just watched them. Really watched them. The way their eyes kept drifting to the hallway, to the space they had already decided was theirs. In that moment, I understood this was not about helping. It was about taking. And I was just the first thing they planned to push out of the way. I did not argue with them that day. That was the part that seemed to confuse everyone later. You would think I would scream or slam a door, or at least throw their greasy takeout back in their faces. But instead, I finished helping Mom with her stretches, cleaned up the living room, and went back to the room they had already decided was not mine anymore. I closed the door quietly, sat on the edge of the bed, and let myself feel that sting in my chest for exactly 30 seconds. Then I opened my laptop. If they wanted me out of the way so badly, I was going to give them exactly what they asked for, just not in the way they imagined. I pulled up an app and started looking for a short-term rental nearby. Somewhere close enough that I could still get back to the house fast, if Mom needed me. It did not take long to find a little basement Airbnb 10 minutes away. Nothing fancy, just a place with a bed, a desk, and decent Wi-Fi. I booked it for a month. When I came upstairs with my suitcase packed, Mom's eyes went wide. "Rachel, honey, where are you going?" she whispered, her voice already shaky from the earlier argument. I sat beside her and took her hand. "I am not abandoning you," I said. "I am just giving everyone some space." I made my voice calm, steady. I told her I could still come by every day, still take her to appointments, still help with her therapy. I did not tell her the rest of what I was planning, because the last thing she needed was more fear. Before I left, I asked Dad if we could set up some security cameras in the house. I framed it like a safety thing, which it was. Mom had almost fallen in the bathroom the week before, and I knew he worried when he was at work. I said, If we had cameras in the living room and the hallway, you could check on her from your phone on your lunch break. It would make me feel better when I am not here too. He hesitated, then nodded. We had seen commercials for those smart home systems 100 times. It did not sound suspicious. It sounded modern and responsible. While Tyler and Lauren went out to pick up a few things for the room, I mounted small cameras in the corners of the living room, the hallway by Mom's bedroom, and the kitchen. I synced them to an app on my phone and on Dad's, showed him how he could swipe through the feeds. He even smiled a little, relieved. "This is actually a good idea," he said. "I know." I kept my face neutral, like this was just one more task on my long list. Upstairs, with my laptop balanced on a box, I logged into my parents' online banking. Months ago, Tyler had asked Dad for the login to help set up automatic bill pay. At the time, it had seemed like a favor. Now, with his comments about my so-called rent-free life still ringing in my ears, it felt like a red flag. I did not change anything yet, but I turned on every alert I could find. Text messages for large withdrawals, emails for new pays, push notifications for any new loan or credit application linked to their names. If the bank so much as sneezed in their direction, my phone would buzz. When the last box was loaded into my car, Tyler leaned against the doorframe of my old room, looking smug. "No hard feelings," he said, like he was the one doing me a favor. "Sometimes you have to make tough choices for the good of the family. You know." Lauren was behind him again, scrolling on her phone, already measuring the room with her eyes. I just smiled a little and said, "You are right, for the good of the family." Then I drove away, not because they had won, but because I needed one thing more than my childhood room. I needed distance. Distance to watch. Distance to listen. Distance to see what my brother and his perfect little wife were going to do once they thought I was finally out of the way. The first night in the basement Airbnb was too quiet. No creaking upstairs. No mom calling my name. No dishwasher humming in the next room. Just the low buzz of the mini fridge and the glow from my laptop. I opened the camera app and watched my parents' living room like it was a TV show I never wanted to be cast in. At first it was normal stuff. Mom asleep in her recliner, the TV on some game show, Dad pacing with his work boots still on. Then the front door opened and Tyler and Lauren came in. Talking low and fast. They did not know yet that every word was being recorded. Tyler dumped a pile of envelopes on the coffee table. All the mail I had seen him sneak from the counter. Lauren kicked off her shoes and headed straight down the hall toward my old room, already half redone in her taste. I turned the sound up. "This is not going to work much longer," Tyler muttered, tearing open a letter. I saw the logo on the corner. A bank I did not recognize. "Foreclosure notice," he said, and my stomach dropped. They are actually going to take it. Lauren came back into frame. Mascara smudged like she had already cried once today. "I thought you said you were handling it," she snapped. I paused the video and rewound 3 seconds, just to make sure I heard her right. Handling it like losing their condo was a minor scheduling conflict. Tyler ran a hand through his hair. "I lost my job, Lauren. They cut half the department. I have been juggling minimum payments and betting slips for months. The games were supposed to fix it, not make it worse. Betting. The word hit me like a second slap. So it was not just the condo. It was sports books and online gambling sites chewing through whatever money they had left." Lauren started pacing. "We cannot go back to some crappy apartment," she said. "I have sponsorship deals. People expect a certain lifestyle. No one follows a broke girl making instant ramen in the dark." She said it like that was a worse fate than bankruptcy. Tyler held up another envelope. "This one's smaller. We still have options," he said. "Your parents have equity, they have savings. If we refinance the house, take out a line of credit, we can get caught up and start over." Her parents, not our parents. Funny how the language shifts when people start eyeing someone else's safety net. Lauren hesitated, chewing her lip. Your sister is always checking those statements, she said. She is going to see it. That is why I needed her gone, Tyler replied. Ra thinks she is the guardian of this place, but she is just in the way. If we get Karen to sign a few things, set up a loan under her name, no one has to know until everything is fixed. Then he said it, the part that made my whole body go cold. We already applied once, remember? He tapped his phone. They only flagged it because of some stupid mismatch. We will try again when your dad is on a double shift. We tell her it is paperwork for her therapy billing. She signs, we solve this. On my laptop, another window flashed. An email from my parents' bank. Attempted new credit application pending review requested under Karen's name. I clicked into it and saw the timestamp. It matched the night had been too busy helping Mom to check my phone. The application had been blocked for now, but the fact that it existed at all turned my anger into something sharper. I let the footage keep rolling. Lauren dropped onto the couch and buried her face in her hands. I did not marry you to be broke, she said, voice muffled. Tyler laughed once, humorless. You married me for the pictures, remember? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Look, once we get the cash, we can pay off the worst of it. The house will still be in their name. We are not stealing. We are borrowing. We will move in. Take care of them. Make sure Rachel does not crawl back in and mess things up. I watched them talk about my parents' future like it was a spreadsheet to be edited. My name tossed in as an obstacle, not a person. When the video ended, I pulled up the router admin page using the password Dad kept taped to the side of his filing cabinet. The devices list showed laptops and phones I recognized. Then one extra, a generic name, something like user PC03 logged in at odd hours. I opened the history I could access and saw visits to loan sites, credit card offers, gambling platforms, all traced back to the same user. Tyler had not just made one bad choice. He had been digging this hole for months. I sat back, rubbing my eyes. This was not about petty sibling drama anymore. This was about fraud. This was about elder abuse, even if no one had put that label on it yet. On the camera feed, I saw Mom shuffle into the kitchen with her walker the next morning, Tyler and Lauren flanking her with exaggerated concern. They pointed at a stack of papers on the table. Just sign here, Mom, Tyler said, rubbing her shoulder. It is for your coverage. Makes the therapy cheaper. She squinted down at the pages, her hand hovering over the pen. My phone buzzed again with a fraud alert. That was it. I closed my laptop and grabbed my keys. Watching was not enough anymore. If I waited one more day, one more hour, they might get exactly what they wanted from her shaking signature. I was done being the quiet one in the corner. It was time to turn what I had seen into something that could actually stop them. I drove straight to the bank before I went anywhere near the house. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, not from fear this time, but from how close Tyler had come to getting exactly what he wanted. In the parking lot, I took a breath, pulled up the email from the fraud alert, and walked inside like I was going into an interview. I refused to fail. I asked to speak to someone in fraud prevention, not just a teller. When a woman in a navy blazer led me to a small office, I laid it all out. Not the family drama, just the facts. My mother is recovering from a serious car accident. I said she has cognitive issues on her bad days. There has been a credit application in her name that she did not authorize. I showed her the email, the timestamps, screenshots of the loan attempts Tyler talked about on camera. I did not say he was my brother until she asked. The banker's face tightened as she scrolled through the account. There have been several inquiries in a short period, she said slowly. Some were blocked by our system, but you are right to be concerned. I asked her to flag every account in my parents' names. To note that any new loan, line of credit, or card needed to be verified directly with both of them, preferably in person. Not through an online form or a phone call someone else could set up. She added notes, turned on extra verification steps, and gave me a pamphlet on financial exploitation of older adults that made my stomach twist. It was like someone had written a brochure about exactly what Tyler was trying to do. The next call I made was from my car, in that same parking lot to the elder abuse hotline listed on the back of the pamphlet. The woman who answered had a calm, practiced voice. I told the story again, this time including the family part, the cameras, the almost signatures. She listened without interrupting, then told me I was doing the right thing, and I needed a lawyer who specialized in this kind of case. She gave me a number. That is how I ended up in a small office above a coffee shop an hour later, sitting across from an attorney named Angela Kim. She was in her 40s, sharp eyes, no nonsense, with diplomas from schools I recognized on the wall behind her. "Tell me everything," she said, and I did. I showed her clips from the camera footage, staying within the parts that mattered most, the conversations about using my mom's name, about getting me out of the way. I pulled up the bank alerts, the foreclosure notice, the credit inquiries, the router history with all the gambling sites highlighted. Angela took notes, occasionally nodding or asking for a date. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "What? Your brother and his wife are attempting falls under financial exploitation," she said. "Because your mother is recovering from a serious injury, this could be considered abuse of a vulnerable adult. It is serious." My chest felt tight, but there was also a strange sense of relief hearing someone else put legal words to the mess in my head. I asked her what we could do before Tyler pushed Mom into signing something irreversible. She suggested filing for temporary guardianship over my parents' finances. Not to take control forever, but to put a legal wall up between them and any more paperwork Tyler might try to slip past. We also needed to make an official report to Adult Protective Services and to local law enforcement. Not because I wanted to see my brother in handcuffs yet, but because paper trails matter when people like him start calling it all a misunderstanding. We spent the next hour drafting statements. I forwarded her copies of the videos, the emails, the notices. She explained that without guardianship, my parents still had full control, but a judge could grant me authority over financial decisions if there was enough evidence that someone was trying to exploit them. It sounded extreme when she said it out loud. Me, the younger sibling who had spent most of her life trying not to make waves, asking a court to give me power over the same people who used to sign my permission slips. But then I pictured Mom's hand hovering over the pen, her eyes trusting, and Tyler's voice telling her it was just insurance paperwork. That image made the decision easy. Angela filed the emergency petition electronically and told me we would probably get a hearing date within days, not weeks, given the situation. In the meantime, she said, "You need to protect your parents as much as you can without tipping your brother off that you are building a case." On the way home, I stopped at a big box store and bought a new folder, the sturdy kind with dividers. Evidence. I wrote on a sticky note and slapped it on the front. It felt dramatic, but I needed some way to hold all of this together. When I walked into the house, the air felt different, quieter. Tyler's car was gone. Lauren's favorite heels were not by the door. Dad was at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. "Where have you been?" he asked, exhausted. I sat down across from him. "Fixing something," I said. Then I opened my laptop and asked him to watch. I did not show him every ugly second of the footage, just enough. The part where Tyler talked about using the equity in the house without telling them. The part where he talked about getting Mom to sign loan documents. The line about needing me gone so I would not see it. Dad's face went from confusion to disbelief to a kind of quiet rage I had never seen on him before. "That is my son," he whispered. But it sounded more like he was talking to himself than to me. Mom was in her recliner, blanket over her legs. When I paused the video, she looked up at me. "Is this real?" she asked softly. I wanted to lie to cushion it somehow. But that is what got us here. Years of smoothing things over for Tyler. "Yes, Mom," I said. "It is real." I pulled out the pamphlet, the notes from the bank. The explanation from Angela in simple terms. I told them we had flagged the accounts, that any new loans would be questioned, that I had started a process to protect their finances legally. Mom's hand covered her mouth. Dad wiped at his eyes with the back of his hand like he was embarrassed to be seen crying. "I am sorry," I said. And it felt like I was apologizing for everything, for not seeing it sooner, for not telling them the first time Tyler asked for their passwords. "But I am not going to let him do this to you. Not now. Not ever." We went through every important document in the house that afternoon. Wills, deeds, insurance policies, past tax returns. We put them in a locked drawer and changed where the key was kept. I helped Dad reset his online banking password and set up two-factor authentication on both of their phones. It took an hour just to walk Mom through the new verification codes, but she did it. Hands shaking only a little. By the time the sun started to go down, the house felt less like a target and more like a fortress. A fragile one, sure, but something solid enough to stand on. Angela called that evening to confirm that the petition had been received and that she had also filed an initial report with the authorities. "Next step," she said, "is a conversation. We need your parents to confront him with you there. And I need to be in the room when he starts explaining himself." My stomach flipped at the idea of sitting across from Tyler and Lauren with all of this on the table. But this was not a screaming match in a hallway anymore. This was going to be something closer to a trial, even if it started at our dining room table. "Tell them we want a family meeting this weekend," Angela said. "Make it sound like what they have been pretending to want. Everyone coming together to talk about the future. Let them walk right into it." I hung up and looked at my parents sitting side by side on the couch, still absorbing the betrayal. "Are you sure you are up for this?" I asked. Dad nodded slowly. "Your brother started this," he said. "It is time he answers for it." And for the first time since he kicked my suitcase into the hallway, I felt something that was not just anger or fear. I felt ready. Saturday afternoon, the house looked like it always did before a holiday, except no one was smiling. Mom sat in her recliner, a little more put together than usual in a soft sweater. Dad in the armchair beside her, jaw clenched. Angela sat at the end of the couch, legal pad on her lap, glasses low on her nose. I stood by the wall, close enough to the hallway that I could see straight down to my old bedroom door. When Tyler and Lauren walked in, they came in loud like always, talking over each other about traffic and parking and how hard it had been to find a spot. Then Tyler saw Angela and his smile flickered. "What is this?" he asked. "I thought this was a family meeting." "It is," Dad said, voice rough. "This is our attorney. Sit down." Lauren shifted her weight from one foot to the other, suddenly less sure of herself in her designer boots. "We did not do anything wrong," she said quickly. "No one said you did," Angela answered calmly. "We are just going to talk about some concerns your parents have." She tapped her pen once against the pad. Tyler laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Concerns like what?" "That we dared to move back here and help that Rachel finally moved out. Do not drag me into your drama, Ra. You left, remember?" His eyes flicked to me like he expected me to shrink against the wall. Instead, I picked up the remote and turned on the TV. Instead of a sitcom, the screen filled with the frozen frame of Tyler at the coffee table, a foreclosure letter in his hand. The sound was off, but the still image was damning enough. Tyler's face drained of color. "What is that?" he said quietly. "Security footage," Angela replied like she was talking about the weather. "Rachel and your parents installed cameras in the common areas for your mother's safety." She looked over at Mom. With your consent. Correct, Karen. Mom nodded slowly. I hit play. The living room filled with the sound of his own voice. Foreclosure notice. They are actually going to take it. We still have options. Your parents have equity. They have savings. If we refinance the house, take out a line of credit, we can get caught up and start over. On the screen, Lauren paced talking about sponsorships and followers. Tyler talked about borrowing, about getting me out of the way. Then the part where he said it clear and sharp like a confession. That is why I needed her gone. If we get Karen to sign a few things set up a loan under her name, no one has to know. In real life in the room, Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. That is out of context, she blurted. We were just brainstorming. Everyone borrows from family. It is not a crime to talk. Angela paused the video, the frame catching Lauren mid-eye roll. The problem, she said evenly, is not talking. The problem is attempted applications already submitted to the bank, inquiries for new credit lines in Karen's name. And the fact that your brother had access to their online accounts. She slid a printout across the coffee table. Arrows highlighting dates and amounts. Tyler glanced at it and then at me. You went through my stuff, he snapped. You have no right. I went through my parents' accounts, I said, keeping my voice steady. The accounts you asked for access to under the pretense of helping them. The bank flagged fraudulent activity. I leaned forward slightly. And for the record, these cameras are in their house, not yours. You walked into their space and planned how to use their names to fix your mess. Dad cleared his throat, and when he spoke, it was the calm that scared me more than yelling ever could. How could you? He asked Tyler. That is your mother. That is this house we worked our whole lives for. Tyler's jaw clenched. I was going to pay it back. He shot back, looking more desperate than angry now. We are drowning, Dad. You have no idea. I lost my job. The condo is gone. The credit cards are maxed. I was trying to fix it by gambling with our future. Mom replied softly, her voice trembling but clear. The room went silent for a beat. Then Angela slid another paper forward. An emergency guardianship petition. She said, your parents have asked Rachel to help protect their finances. A judge will decide, but in the meantime, the bank has been notified and Adult Protective Services is aware of the situation. Tyler's head snapped toward me. You did this. His voice cracked high and ugly. You are trying to take control. Make me look like some kind of criminal. You did that to yourself, I said. You called me a burden and pushed me out so you could work unchecked. All I did was stop being convenient. Lauren stood up so fast the chair rocked. This is insane, she said. People borrow money from parents all the time. If anyone hears about this, my brand is ruined. Angela looked at her. If this continues, she said, your brand will be the least of your concerns. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult is a crime. Intent matters. Pattern matters. And we have both. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Dad's eyes flicked to me and I nodded. He got up and opened it to two uniformed officers and a plainclothes detective. Good afternoon, one of them said. We are here to follow up on a report regarding possible financial abuse. Tyler exploded. Are you kidding me? He turned on me like he might actually lunge, but one of the officers stepped forward. A hand out, firm but not aggressive. Sir? We just want to ask some questions. This can happen here or at the station, but it will happen. The detective sat down at the edge of the coffee table and began asking Tyler about his access to the accounts, about the loan applications, about the foreclosure, about the gambling websites tied to the home network. Every lie he tried to tell came up against a printout, a screenshot, another few seconds of video. Lauren kept insisting she did not know the details, that she only signed what he told her was safe. The detective wrote that down too. After what felt like an hour compressed into 20 minutes, one of the officers stood. Sir, based on what we have so far, we are going to need you to come with us, he said. Tyler looked stunned. "You are arresting me for trying to help my family. We are detaining you for questioning regarding suspected financial exploitation," the officer replied. "You will have the opportunity to contact an attorney." Lauren started crying. Real tears this time, not the staged kind for her followers. Tyler looked at me one more time as they cuffed him, eyes full of accusation and something else. "Something like betray. You did this?" he whispered. "Remember that?" I met his gaze. "No," I said quietly. "You did this when you decided Mom was a solution instead of a person." They let him out. The front door closing with a soft click that sounded louder than any slam. Lauren stayed frozen on the couch until the detective handed her a card and told her someone would be in touch. When she finally left, heels clicking down the walkway, the house seemed to exhale. Mom was shaking, tears on her cheeks, but there was a steadiness in her eyes I had not seen in months. Dad put his hand on my shoulder. "I am so sorry you had to be the one to stop him," he said. "You should not have had to carry this." I swallowed hard. "I am just glad we caught it in time." Angela gathered her papers and looked at me. "This is not over," she said. "There will be hearings. Maybe a trial, but you have done the hardest part. You drew a line." That night, I went back down the hall to my old room. Tyler and Lauren had already started to make it theirs in small ways. New bedding half spread on the mattress. Boxes of their things stacked against the wall. I took a breath and began packing their stuff into the boxes, one item at a time. Not out of spite, but to clear space. When I finally sat on the edge of the bed, the same spot I had sat on the day he called me a burden, the house felt different. I was still exhausted, still scared for what came next, but underneath all of that was a quiet, solid feeling. For the first time in a long time, this room, this house, this family was not something my brother could rearrange to suit himself. And that, more than watching him walk out in handcuffs, was the beginning of justice feeling real. 5 months later, the house felt lighter in ways I did not know a building could. The legal process was slow and complicated, but every step moved in the same direction. Angela kept me in the loop, sending updates as the investigation pulled in more than just our footage and bank records. They dug into Tyler's accounts, his emails, his browser history, even contact information from his old job. It turned out what he tried to do to our parents was not a one-time panic move. There were co-workers he had borrowed from and never repaid. Older clients he had steered toward fake opportunities. Little schemes that never quite rose to the level of a headline, but added up to a pattern a prosecutor could not ignore. When Tyler finally stood in court, there was no big dramatic scene, just a man in a suit that did not fit anymore. Staring at a stack of evidence he could not talk his way around. His lawyer advised him to take a plea deal rather than risk a full trial and an even longer sentence. He admitted to financial fraud and exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The judge handed down 10 years. I did not cheer. I just sat there next to my parents holding Mom's hand, feeling a strange mix of grief and grim relief. This was my brother, but it was also the person who had looked at our mother and seen a solution to his debt, not a human being. Lauren's fate unfolded differently. She was not charged with the same crimes, but the investigation into their finances led to creditors she had been avoiding for years. She lost the condo officially in foreclosure, then the car, then the sponsored content deals, when brands decided they did not want their names anywhere near a scandal involving elder abuse. The last time I saw her in person, she was behind the counter at a small cafe across town, hair pulled back, apron on, asking a customer if they wanted room for cream. She saw me for half a second, then looked away. I did not feel triumphant. I just felt done. A few weeks after the sentencing, a podcast reached out, one that focuses on financial abuse in families. The host asked if I would share our story anonymously with names changed and voices altered. I said yes, not because I wanted more drama, but because I kept thinking about how close we had come to losing everything, and how many families never see it coming at all. Sitting in front of a microphone, I told them about the cameras, the bank alerts, the moment in the hallway when my suitcase hit the floor and my brother called me a burden. I told them how easy it is to confuse keeping the peace with keeping quiet. How people like Tyler count on the rest of us not wanting to make things awkward. The episode went live and messages started trickling in. People telling me their own versions of the same story, different details, same feeling of being used by the people who were supposed to protect them. At home, life slowly found a new rhythm. Mom's therapy started paying off. She could make it from the recliner to the porch, with just a cane by the end of summer. Dad cut back a few hours at work because he did not have to chase money that kept disappearing into someone else's bad decisions. One Sunday, we packed sandwiches and drove to the park for our first real picnic since before the accident. Mom insisted on walking to the bench herself. As we watched kids run around and dogs yank leashes, Dad turned to me. He said, "If you had stayed quiet, we would have lost everything and called it bad luck. Instead, we lost a son we thought we knew and found out who you really are." I did not know what to say to that, so I just squeezed his hand. People like to talk about forgiveness as if it is the only respectable ending. But the truth is, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is draw a line and refuse to let someone cross it again. I will never be the convenient one in the corner again. The one who swallows hurt so other people can stay comfortable. If there is anything I want anyone listening to my story to take away, it is this. Do not wait until someone calls you a burden to start protecting yourself and the people who depend on you. Trust is a gift, not a blank check. And the moment someone tries to cash it in at your expense, you are allowed to say no. Our team at Revenge Red is dedicated to crafting meaningful emotional revenge stories that are fully fictional and created only to share lessons and positive values with our audience. We are committed to reminding viewers that these stories are made up, but the messages about family, respect, and self-worth are very real. This script carries a strong educational value by showing how important it is to recognize financial abuse, set healthy boundaries, and protect vulnerable family members, even when the threat comes from someone close. It encourages viewers to stop normalizing toxic behavior for the sake of family and to use legal, smart, and calm actions instead of violence. Through Rachel's journey, the story highlights courage, self-respect, and the power of speaking up when something is